And again, if you played the game at the time, you know that that leader was none other than our boy, Heightened Evolution Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku. When I have conversations with a lot of players about this game, especially when new sets come out, I hear a lot of complaints that come up. Why is this card tied to a particular leader? Why is it tied to a particular color? Why can't we have cards that aren't in archetypes and have more freedom of deck building? And when I hear that, I believe that most of the time those players are new. I will argue that the majority of the time when a card is banned, it is because it is not tied to a leader or to an archetype or to a mechanic. And that is where this current card that we have in episode 3 of Why Was It Banned Limited or Errata'd comes up into play. Because this card was quite possibly the most problematic card ever printed in the game and led us to why we have sets designed the way that they are now. So we are looking at the SS3 Son Goku leader, not the retrained one that we have now, but the original leader. So this leader came out in set 3, and this was the second best leader in game behind the subject of episode 2, which was Mecha Frieza. In retrospect, this guy was probably even better, but Mecha Frieza had the highest ceiling of any deck that you had, right? This guy would just aggregate the best leader probably ever printed. Let's see what he does, and then I'll explain why he was a problem. So it brings out how the active main, you place one card from your hand in your drop area. If you have no energy, choose 2 cards in your life and add them to your energy. Then you waken up 4 less life. So what you would do is on turn 1, you would skip charge, you would pitch a card from hand, you would ramp 2 cards from your life. So that made it so on turn 1, if you were willing to take the -1 play, you could be up on 2 energy. So when this card was first shown, the game had a different mentality at the time. Set 1 and set 2 has taught us, and even set 2.5 taught us that cards in hand was the most important thing. Later on, we realized just how powerful having excess energy is. So now we know that you could sacrifice hand size if you have greater energy that then allows you to get that hand size back later. So once you get to the backside, he had at the end of your turn, choose up to 3 of your energy and switch them to actable. This was not tied to any color or anything like that. And when this card attacks, you draw a card. So immediately you got to be on turn 2 from the beginning of the game, and you got to untap 3 energy of any color on the backside. So again, I mentioned it was around when Mecha Frieza was there, and this was a deck that was kind of played at the time. It was a red-blue anti-meta strategy where you had a little bit of everything for the decks that matter. And the main thing was that you were the best Trunks Zeno deck, where you played Chain Attack Trunks into Zeno the Playing God, which became his premier target instead of Bobbity. And you use that because this was one of the few cards that didn't care about barrier being on your opponent's cards and could deal with the enormous hand size that Mecha Frieza got early on in the game. All you had to do was just hope that they did not have the energy open or the life to spare for a cold bloodlust. If you were playing against like a GT variant, or you were playing against Veggies variant, you didn't have to worry about it too much. But when you were playing against apes, that could come up. So you also have Vegito, which was a barrier guy that when he was arrest mode, your opponent's cards couldn't attack your leader, so they had to deal with a 20k. And because you was untapping 3 energy every turn, it was a lot easier to defend 20 than to defend 15. And once you put a bean on him, he was 25. There was basically no way of getting him off the table when you had unbreakables as well as combo into play guys like Raging Spirit Son Gohan, plus your typical super combo and your topo negate. But this was the old school topo negate. Like it was just negate one attack, play this guy. But during that time in the game, removal was again at a premium. So most people removal cards were, 4, 5 energy. Play this 4-drop, get rid of your card. And they weren't really equipped to deal with this coming out like on turn 2 or turn 3. And then you have Foreseen Hit because Tournament of Power came out not too long after Crossworlds did. And this guy served as a finisher as you were able to look at your opponent's hand, choose 2 cards, get rid of them, and then swing with Double Strike and all this combo power. So this is where the deck started at, but that's not where the deck ended up at. So the first thing that happened that transformed the way the deck played was that people realized that there was a lot of good stuff that Blue had at store. So you then went to a mono blue variant. And one of the best things Blue had going for it was the legendary Flute. This card is now banned. It will get its own entry into the series, so I'm not going to go over it too much. But Flute plus certain cards that cost 3 or less. Because what it did was it drew you a card and bounced one of your battle cards cost 3 or less. And so you got to pick up Energy Boost and Magic Boost for additional draws, Tapion for additional removal, Gohans, after you swung them, you just flew it back to your hand so you could combo with it the next turn. And you would do all this stuff and just outvalue your opponent. You also had an upgraded version in a way of Vegito with Trio the Dangerous Bergamo. Again, removal was so hard to come by. So Bergamo, once you put him out there on turn 3 or whatnot, will usually stay out there for a turn or two before you could even play anything that might could kill it. And then you have finishers in the form of At All Costs Vegeta that also serve as Self-Awakening, and the Dragon Fist Son Goku. So again, great deck, cool. But the problem was it wasn't just the best mono blue good stuff deck. This deck was also the best shell for just about any deck you wanted to play. For example, Anthony Hernandez brought this deck to an event and came in second place playing SS3 Apes. We already mentioned how Apes was the best version of Mecha Frieza, but once Mecha Frieza went away, it was very hard to justify playing the big Vegeta without a good Shugesh leader, and it was also hard to get to March in a timely manner. But not for this guy. You started out at 2 energy, you had a Great Awakener and Bardock the Progenitor, who was also banned, and then you would get to March, you would play 2 guys, and then you would untap 3 energy, and you had nothing to worry about in this world. You also had great search in Planet Vegeta and Successor Hope to get to all the cards you needed, and you just had a great mono yellow deck. But wait, there's more. This deck, SS3 Maidens, came in 4th place at an event. Again, Tournament of Power just came out. We had a nice Ribrianne leader. People really wanted to play Universe 2. They were trying to make Ribrianne work, and they said, hey, you know what? Let's just make a green SS3 deck. We'll put all these green cards in here. We'll turn 1 Brienne de Chateau. We'll turn 2 this card right here to pop whatever was on the board that they played on their turn 1. And then turn 3, we'll make this card have 3 energy up to be able to play something else like an Android 16, and then untap 3 energy at the end of the turn to defend ourselves with all our hot cards. And it just kept going down the rabbit hole and down the rabbit hole to the point where the best deck in the format, which was blue-yellow 1-2 swap or storm as it was called, even that was better when you played it with the SS3 leader. And this was the issue. So tournaments at this time were really annoying to watch and even playing. So you would sit down, the leader across from you, as well as yours if you were really trying to win, would be SS3. You had no idea what they were playing. You just knew the leader was SS3. So the SS3 could be 1-2 swap like this. It could be Maidens. It could be Apes. It could be Mono Blue. It could be the OG red blue good stuff. Heck, even in our local store, we had went to a ARG in the store team, which I was not on because I'm a scrub, played SS3 androids. I don't have a list for you, but it was wild. And here was the issue. They were coming out with sets. They were printing cards, particularly leaders, and none of those leaders were valid because none of the cards required you to play them with that particular leader. Because none of those cards required you to play it with that particular leader, it was always better with SS3. With that being said, in order for them to make a leader better than this, they would have to push it so hard, power level wise, that whatever it was built around would be just insane. So they either do that or they start making these cards care about what color the leader was or what archetype the leader came from, or you ban the leader. And they took a combination of 2. They banned the leader and then they started printing the sets in a way gradually. It didn't start out like right away, like very next set you can't play it outside of anything, but gradually they started printing the cards to care more about the color of the leader and archetypes that they were in, until you got to Unison Warrior Block, where that was basically how all the cards were printed. So of course we know that the card got retrained into this version of SS3, which is the way I think original SS3 should have been, minus the super neg ramp part. But as far as like the untap 3 mono blue, draw a card, all that stuff. That's how it should have been. So yeah, if you want to know why your deck that is coming out in the next set forces you to play a janky leader or cares about a particular archetype, this guy is to blame. With that being said, as bad as those tournaments were to sit through, he was not the worst thing that happened to early Dragon Ball. And we keep dancing around the cards as we went through these first 3 episodes. But next episodes, we're gonna bring it all together, talking about what is quite possibly a turning point for the popularity of the game in my area. So stay tuned for episode 4, where we discuss Storm. So that's it for this video. I'll catch you next time, and this is VG Times signing out.